Welcome to Wake Up and Smell the Tauntaun. I'm your host, John Maffio, and today we are talking all about the Vanity Fair spread on Star Wars The Last Jedi. This was released last week and also in passing with the actual 40th anniversary of Star Wars, or as they call it now, A New Hope Episode 4, but it was originally called Star Wars, if you didn't know. They released a slew of new information, including planets, characters, maybe story beats if you look into it a lot, and I'm just going to cover some things that I thought were important, things that stuck out to me, because if we talked about every little thing, we'll be here for an hour. Starting with the pictures that were taken by the legendary photographer Annie Leibovitz. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Got a lot of really cool imagery here. I mean, the ones that strike me the most, just upon, like, even if I look at it now, it's been a few days, but the ones of Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher embracing each other, and the one of Carrie Fisher and Billy Lord, Carrie Fisher's daughter, embracing each other. It's just when I first saw those two images, like, it just really hit me. And he really captured really beautiful moments in time here. They released 4 covers. There's one of Luke and Rey, there's one of Carrie Fisher by herself, there's one of the Resistance, and there's one of the First Order. And one of the biggest things is that Captain Phasma is unmasked. So she's going to be unmasked possibly in The Last Jedi. We'll have to see. I mean, you can't have someone like Gwendolyn Christie and not let her act, which is exactly what happened in Force Awakens. So hopefully we get to see a little bit of her Brienne of Tarth come out for this movie, where she actually could, like, show how much of an awesome actress she is. Kylo Ren Scar's badass. In the Resistance photo, I really like how Poe and Finn have this, like, really sexual vibe going on there. And you have Kelly Marie Tran, who's playing Rose Tico, in the corner, like, I'm in a Star Wars movie. I got my little notepad here. But one of the coolest pieces of information that we got is the new planet, one of the new planets that we're going to be seeing in the film. Besides exploring more on Act 2, which is where Luke and Rey are training, which is in Skellig, Ireland. Canto Bight. It's going to be like a Monte Carlo casino type of place, where a lot of wealthy aliens and creatures from across the galaxy come to, gamble. And I really, if you see the pictures, the images that they were released from Canto Bight, there's some really interesting designs going on, creature-wise there. Of course, you got some humans, but, like, the actual creatures, like, if you look at some of them, they look really bizarre, and it's, like, perfect for Star Wars, and I love it. But I like how Rian Johnson described the place as a place for rich assholes. We also got our first looks, as well as identities, of some of the actors who are in this movie and who they're playing, sort of. First, we got Laura Dern, who's playing Vice Admiral Amilyn Holdo. I'm assuming Amilyn has a place of power after the New Republic was wiped out, Hosnian Prime, in the last movie. I like that she kind of carries away with herself in the image that was taken by Annie, that, like, she means business, possibly. Then we also have Benicio del Toro playing a character named DJ, who is described as shady, and apparently we're going to find out why he's called DJ. So either DJ means something, or it's like a hidden identity for something else. I can see him working both sides just to a means of his end, where he saves his own ass. Whatever works in one favor or the other. If working with the Resistance worked better for him, then he'll do that. But if he has to turn over and betray somebody, if it saves him, then he'll do that. But we'll see what happens with his character. I also like the little dynamic that's probably going to go on here between Kelly Marie Tran's Rose and her sister Paige, who is being trained by Poe Dameron as a Resistance gunner, apparently. I always like family vibes in these movies, and it's cool to see there's going to be a couple of characters in the Resistance who are related to each other fighting the big war that's going to be happening in this film. Is there going to be some tragedy? Perhaps. But we don't really know much about Paige or Rose at all, really, to even, like, decipher what's going to happen with them. All we know is that they're part of the Resistance, and that Poe is training the sister Paige, who we haven't seen any images of yet. We only know how Rose looks based on the pictures from Celebration and now Vanity Fair. But I'm looking forward to seeing how their sibling dynamic plays, if it plays a role in this new movie, or possibly even Episode 9 if it's built upon. Another thing that was interesting is that apparently Snoke is going to remain a mystery in this film for the most part. Not much is going to be enlightened on his character, although I'm going to get to it in a little bit. There was something that was leaked that might give people an idea of what could be happening physically with the character, but sure. I mean, you focus, when you're a director, when you're a storyteller, you gotta focus on what's important for this particular story. And if Snoke is not important for The Last Jedi, in terms of releasing information on who he is, where he came from, if that's not important right now, then yeah, let it stay a secret. I also think it's awesome that Rian Johnson had full writer's credit, sole writer's credit on Last Jedi, and he had a lot of creative control. I think it's awesome that Disney is just letting, and Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger are letting these awesome, talented, creative directors, storytellers do their thing in the universe of Star Wars and tell their own stories that will forge the way the universe expands for years to come. I think it's really awesome. Also, according to canon, Anakin's lightsaber, the blue one that was carried through the prequels as well as the original movies up until, Luke lost his hand, it's now dubbed as Rey's lightsaber. And there's like some controversy that you can't do that. It was always Anakin's lightsaber. So Rey is suddenly just going to have the lightsaber and it's going to be her lightsaber? Well, yeah. If you're a kid growing up today in the 21st century and you're growing up with these movies, you're going to see that lightsaber. You're going to identify that lightsaber as Rey's. That's just the way it's going to be. Yes, there is a lineage. There's a history with the lightsaber. That doesn't mean it has to be labeled to one person. So it makes sense to me that the marketing department is calling it Rey's lightsaber. It makes sense. I don't see what the big problem is with this one. This Vanity Fair article and just the magazine in general, so much information came out of this. As I mentioned before, we could spend all day talking about it, but David Kemp, if you haven't read it, you can go online and read it, or you can also buy the Vanity Fair magazine and read it there too. You get a deeper sense of what goes on creatively with Disney and Lucasfilm, but you also do get a lot of information about the movie. So if you want to go read it, find out a lot more in the actual article. But the last thing I want to mention that was interesting to me, and it makes sense to me, is that Luke and Rey are not alone on Act 2. It's an entire planet, so if they were the only two on the planet, it would be weird to me anyway, so it makes sense that they're living with an indigenous species somewhere, even if it's not on that Pacific island that they're on in the movie right now. It makes sense to me that there would be other indigenous creatures living around. It's an entire planet. Moving into something that's not necessarily about Vanity Fair, but it is about The Last Jedi. There's a Lego set leaked, or a bunch of Lego sets leaked about the film that include characters, something about the new AT-ATs, AT-ATs, that we see briefly in the background in The Last Jedi trailer, and a couple other things. I didn't look at it. I saw it briefly on Twitter. I scrolled through. I saw like a leaked picture. Apparently Snoke's there, and you can get a good look at what he looks like. Kudos to StarWarsNewsNet.com, who always has great articles, but that's where I found this information from. So if you want to see that link, it'll be down below. And I'm going to end this video on a little piece of information that has been released about the newest standalone film in Star Wars, where we still don't know what it's going to be yet, but apparently it's going to be finalized. A decision is going to be finalized anyway in June, which is literally less than a week away. If we're going to find out information, it'll probably be at either Comic-Con or D23. It's good to know we're definitely getting another standalone movie. It was going to be something completely different that has nothing to do with Obi-Wan, Mandalorians, bounty hunters. I don't know what else it could possibly be. It just seems like the way things are moving, it's going to be an Obi-Wan movie. But they're hoping to have it out for 2020, so if they want to get this production fast-tracked, then I'm sure we're going to find out very soon. And with that, we have come to the conclusion for this week's episode of Wake Up and Smell the Tauntaun. If you liked any of these stories, and if you enjoyed this little video where I talk about Star Wars for a few minutes, like, subscribe if you haven't so you won't miss a video ever again, and check out the rest of my videos down below. May the Force be with you all. I'll see you next week.